Hey, here's Augie again. I want you to think about something. Where does mankind come from? Have we always been around, or was it maybe evolution or creation, or could we have come from up there? I know you thought about it before, and there are so many different versions of us. We are, some of us has different colors, some of us are taller, shorter. Nobody talks about the pygmies. The 3 foot tall, perfect human and very intelligent. I think also that mankind has been around for a very long time. Why do I say that? Well, it's because we have human footprints in stone next to a dinosaur footprint in stone, the same stone. And this stone was formed about 250 million years ago. So yeah, I think we've been around a while. This also goes along with a perfect human skeleton, that a fossilized perfect human skeleton found inside of a stone in Antarctica. Now, the only thing is that this human skeleton inside that stone was only 11 inches tall. That goes along with a NASA print that I have of showing a human standing, leaning up against a rock on Mars. You can go and look at that. It's in the picture gallery on broadcastteamalpha.com. Now, for the last version of one of us, there's actually a written record of that. It's called the Sumerian Tablets. There was a man in the 3rd century BC, that's 2,300 years ago. He translated a lot of the Sumerian tablets, and he summarized it in a written form that is called, you go look this up, it's called Enki and Ninmah. Enki, E-N-K-I and N-I-N-M-A-H. The creation of mankind. That is what he dug out of the Sumerian tablets. And there's another one, it's called the Epic of Atra-Hasis. The Epic of Atra-Hasis. Or Hasis, I'm not sure how they pronounce that exactly. That speaks clearly of an alien race that came to Earth 445,000 years ago. And they came here to dig for gold. And they needed that gold for their home world, to secure and protect the upper atmosphere. Now, this is the planet that many call Nibiru, and there are other names for it. Nibiru, it goes in our solar system. It is actually a system of planets that travels around, and it takes 3,600 and some 60 years on one turn around the sun. And it's explained in the Sumerian tablets. Now, these alien beings that came here, they splashed down in the Arabian Sea, walked to shore, and created a settlement they called Eden, or Eden as the religious Christians would call it. And also, they were here for 144,000 years of our years, not theirs, but ours. And they were digging for gold, especially Africa, South America. They've been on pretty much every continent by that time and dug tunnels where they found gold, and they refined it and took it home to their home world. After a while, their people that was working, they just didn't like the work anymore. So there was a rebellion. And then the rulers of this group of people, they figured that they would make a servant worker that was smart enough to work, but wouldn't ask questions. And they created one. They took the genetics of a species that was already here, human-like, which it looks like it was the Homo sapiens sapiens. And they took the genetics from that creature and added their own substance to it. And in the Sumerian tablet is very clearly explained how they did that. They took apart the double rope of life, and the twisted rope of life is what they called it. Kind of sounds like the double helix to me. And then they added their own substance to it. That sounds like genetic engineering. And they created what they called man. The first one was not Adam. There was one before Adam. And that one was called Lulu. And there were many failed experiments before they came up with Lulu. And these aliens, they are the Anunnaki, which they called themselves, they were the gods. So when they created man, they created many of them, and they told man that they are their gods. And in their language, that meant great leader. And that's why the word God that we're using was given a meaning it was never meant to have. And also, man was created 301,000 years ago, according to the Sumerian tablets. So when this planet system comes through here every 3,600 and some 60 years, there's usually a little bit of upheaval because there's a lot of rocks following that system. And if Earth passes through that tail, there will be a lot of rocks coming out of the sky, and that's not a good thing. Ask Noah, he knows all about it. So their circle around the sun, they call it SARS, S-A-R. That's their circle around the sun, which was 3,600 and some 60 years. And they are coming back. They're on their way into the solar system now. In 1984, I read 2 newspaper articles. Chicago Tribune was one of them, and I have these newspaper clips where they said they found a huge planetary object right at the edge of our solar system. And for whatever that was, they didn't know what it was at that time. They talked about it, and they thought that it was moving towards into the system. It was down at about a 23 degree angle down and coming up into the system. So It is on its way in. We don't know exactly how far it is, but it is coming. And then suddenly everything went black. There was the Jordell Bank Observatory in Australia. They had a picture up there for about maybe 2 weeks or so of this planetary object. There was, kind of like a dot, but they explained that was huge, about 5 to 7 times the size of Earth, and it was on its way in. And then it was taken down, and in fact, I tried to call them. They wouldn't talk to me. So there is something about this thing that they do not want mankind to know. And if it were to happen, what happened when Noah was around, yeah, I can see why they wouldn't want us to know. So those are the thoughts of the last versions of man or mankind that was created. But there are many others. There have been seedings from space. Ask the Dogon people in Africa about that. There's a book about that. The Dogon People is the title of the book. And they explain that about 5,000 years ago, and that 5,000 years was figured out because they figured it on generations. There were people that came to them and said that they came from this binary star called Sirius. And they had that in their folklore from 5,000 years ago. And they explained that to explorers that came and visited them back in the 1920s. That was before science, as we know it now, knew that Sirius was a binary star. We only thought there was one. So the Dogon people knew that before that. And then there are other seedlings that has been here over the thousands of years, millions of years, because the human form is very common throughout cosmos. Space is full of life, and many of them looks just like you and me. And then others looks totally different. Some of them is not even, as they call it on Star Trek, carbon units. Crystalline forms, silicon forms are also life forms in space. We have proven that crystals can actually operate on the same principle as a life form. So yeah, there we are, and we are here. And still, after all that, we wonder where we come from. We don't really know. But maybe someday, after disclosure, we will have some information from our friends that are coming. Maybe they can tell us. Because I don't think we're smart enough to figure it out on our own using our own science. Because we are asking the wrong questions because we think we know the answer. Now, that's something to think about. So anyway, that was it for this time. See you in the next video.